Hello, and welcome to part 23 of City Skylines 2 on our save of West Goldfield. Now, today, off the bat, there are garbage problems, which I do believe should figure themselves out, because we did fix our problem with our incineration plant, which honestly was a pretty silly mistake, but nonetheless, it should be solved. Now today, what I do really want to focus on is getting this demand bar kind of down in a way. Like, I don't mean like get rid of demand for this city, but at the same time, I do want to just keep the city growing. Now, I am seeing a few traffic jams and seemingly kind of have no reason for them because there's like no cars that should be coming from over here. And also, I don't see the problem. Now, I do think that I will maybe try a roundabout over there. Maybe that will fix it. I do think just to keep it a little more simple, we will just keep it as a highway until it gets to the roundabout. Now, additionally, what I want to look into is actually shrinking this road down to a 4-lane road. Of course, I do want to make it look nice, so I will put some grass and trees. Now, I do actually, instead of putting it in the middle this time, want to put it on the side, just because, as we know, this area is pretty pedestrian friendly-ish. So to maintain that, I do want to put some trees along here so that it is safer for walking. And there we go. Now, something else I would like to do is probably put some paths going down this way so that people do not have to walk on the highway. And there we go. I did finish putting down the paths, and of course, I also put a crosswalk with a traffic light for safety. Now over here, I do just want to check that this is the smallest roundabout we can have. And it actually isn't, so I am going to change it to be smaller because I really don't think a roundabout that size is needed. Also, I will also shrink the road. And there we go. I was having a few problems with the actual roundabout, but I believe that is solved. Now I do have to fix up the crosswalk again, but it should only take a minute. And there we go. That should be pedestrian safety significantly improved. Now, one last final touch, adding a few trees. I did also realize a park could be added, and I decided it was worth it and it would be a pretty cool addition. So here we are. I think this is the pretty much final result, minus just a few more trees. And there we go. And I think this area is looking quite nice. And it does seem that the traffic light is not going to be a huge problem. Now, I'm not sure why cars are just doing U-turns over here, but if it continues, we'll have to fix that. Just to stop so many vehicles doing U-turns, I think I will just also reduce the size of this road too. Okay, that should be the problem solved for real this time. And again, demand is really just through the roof. Now, something else I want to point out is a lot of the trash problems over here has been solved, and I'm assuming that they will continue to be with some time. Now, I am also noticing a larger and larger traffic backup over here, so I do think the solution, at least to keep the highway free, to actually be to take the lane off further back. Hopefully, just starting with this side will work for now. Now again, demand is climbing, and I said that I wanted to address it, so I think we should look to where we'll build next. But before building, we do have to make sure our schools have capacity. And over here, I'm noticing that A, this building does not have any upgrades, and B, it's not assigned to any districts. So I will assign it to Washington Heights. And I do just want to check on the elementary school here, which is once again full, so we will deassign it from Washington Heights so that it can focus on just this area. Checking on the high school, we can see it's full over here, and I think we should check on the ones over here. Again, this one doesn't have a... Holy moly, why is the time to graduation 16 months? Anyways, we will put a rooftop sports park over here. Now, I know that the developers recently said they balanced high school and elementary school for how long people stay in each, but that just seems like an insane amount. Now it seems all of my high schools are full. Again, this one's missing a part. And this area needs more capacity for elementary schools too, so I will build another one there. Also, this one does not have a rooftop park. Now I guess we have to look towards building, I guess, both elementary schools and high schools. Now, as far as high schools go, I'm sure we could put a high school over here, but, not exactly right there. I think a good place would probably be in this little pocket. And of course we can assign it a district. For a new high school over here, I think that we should look towards where there are not a ton of schools already. So I think over here would be a good place. But also there's not going to be a ton of homes over here, so probably further down here. Now, in my opinion, the easiest way to add elementary schools without it looking too silly with just a ton of buildings everywhere. If they are city high schools, what you can do is just put them right next to each other, like this. And even if one has the extension floor and the other doesn't, it honestly looks decently natural, minus the fact of the entrance. Of course, we are going to give it the... What? I cannot give it its courtyard. Will I be able to upgrade it? I also am not able to upgrade it. Interesting. We'll have to look towards a solution to that in the future, but for now, I think this should be fine for this area. Now, I believe over here still needs a elementary school, so I think we can do like we did over here, and just put it kind of like right there. Again, we'll put our little playground, and I think that's pretty alright. Now, over here, the solution is, we don't need more elementary schools anymore, but we do definitely need a high school. So if we look towards where there are not already high schools, I think there's not really an answer, but I think around here is the best place to put it. And of course we're going to put it give it a sports park. And now again, we'll look towards zoning. Now I do want to keep high density kind of in this area, because there are schools here, and I think eventually we could put a bus line running through here. Actually, let me check if that's possible first. And we actually can, so that's nice. So I do want to leave a little bit of space so we can put a few trees, but I think that it would be good to put a building there. And probably one near it. Except that is all of the demand gone. So we can scoot down further away from these schools and put some medium density housing over here. I did add a park and a little pass-through, so that at least going like from here to here is a little bit faster. Now again, we can see we have medium density demand, so I will build it. Now I do think that I don't want buildings right next to the park, as we do want a few trees, but I will put more over here. And I think over here we can put bigger buildings. And again, because this area is probably going to have a bus line going through, I do want to put a few shops over here. And there we go, we got a few trees down, and once again, we have demand for medium density homes. And we can see that this store is actually getting quite a few customers. Now, of course, I do want to add a rooftop park to that high school. And again, we have demand for pretty much everything across the board. But I do want to look towards maybe a new area where we could develop in, so that we're not kind of just developing irregularly and going over here. And that area I think makes sense would probably just be over here. Now, this area is going to be tricky for sure, but I do think it's very doable. I think that if we move the train tracks to follow the highway a little bit, or we move the power lines to follow the highway, it would clear up a pretty good amount of space. Alternatively, we could shift the tracks this way, and that would clear up more space in the middle. Also, we would have to shrink this intersection. Now, I think that's probably the way we should go once we start developing over here, but I do also just want to point out, we are having a pretty crazy traffic jam, which is mainly because of the slip lane. So I think the easiest way to fix that would be to just make the merge further down, because that would also reduce backups over here. But also I feel like it could just be a problem with rush hour, as we are also seeing traffic over here for seemingly no reason. And there we go, we can say people are merging further down, which should solve our problem. Now I'm seeing that this intersection is working better compared to a while ago, and I do think it's probably because of this new highway we built. And again, the highway with the roundabout is holding up pretty well. And again, if we look over here, people are going this way, and traffic still isn't great. Now, I'm not sure I would really be able to solve this, other than maybe putting an elevated road that goes over here, and then maybe just having kind of one loop that goes this way. That would mean that we'd have to get rid of a decent amount of buildings. I do think, because a lot of people seemingly want to turn left and just go this way, I don't really get it. Oh no, because they want to go to this city, not this city. Okay. So maybe just making it a turn signal might actually fix our problem if we gave it another lane also. Now, unfortunately, we will have to demolish this gas station if we want to expand the road, but I don't really love that option, so I am going to try again. And hopefully this fixes our problem. Again, we do see industrial demand, housing demand, and commercial demand, which I don't really want to build commercial because we do just have really a ton of it over here. Granted, a lot of them are most likely smaller stores that aren't like huge centers for shopping, but nonetheless, we have a ton of capacity. I do also just want to check up on the bridge in this highway over here, and it does seem to be holding up pretty well. What isn't holding up pretty well is the port. The port probably needs an upgrade, but we don't really have a means to do that except for an auxiliary gate, which auxiliary gates are cool because they really just allow for a second entrance that you wouldn't otherwise have. Unfortunately, there are no one-way auxiliary gates, which isn't a huge problem, but it does lead to this happening, which I think it would probably make more sense if the small auxiliary gate was just a one-way gate. Now, hopefully this fixes our traffic problem, but a few things need to be done for that to happen. Of course, we have to get rid of the sidewalks, get rid of the traffic light, and remove the left turn here. Surprisingly, there are a lot of people walking in this area, which I really didn't expect, because it is an industrial area, and, I mean, not super pedestrian friendly. Now hopefully this auxiliary gate really does solve our problem permanently, but we will have to see. Now something else I might do in the future is, instead of building like anything else over here, I might actually just expand the port to take up this space. But again, we have tons of demand, so I think we should get building. Now I think we have to look towards other areas to build, which would probably just be connecting this area over here. Over here, I think it probably makes sense to just continue these old kind of European themed homes, which I do have to adjust this grid for. Now that seems to be most of our demand satisfied, at least for homes that we would build. Anyways, now I do just want to check back on this area, and it really isn't doing much better. Now, I'm really not sure how to fix this, but I mean, I guess time is just going to be the solution. Now, if we look over at our residential zone, we can see that the houses are looking pretty nice now that they're upgraded, especially these waterfront houses. Pretty big homes, too. Now, again, we do have industrial demand, which we should probably continue to build. The problem is, we did mostly run out of space unless we build this way, which I think that's exactly what we should do. Would you look at that? It's starting to snow again. Now, I do think that that is a decent place to leave off, as we did get a good amount done. We got a lot of houses built, we fixed our schools, and we just expanded the city as a whole and discussed where we would continue building in the future. Anyways, that's the end of this video, and I really want to thank you for watching through the whole thing. It really means a lot. In the meantime, if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them down below, and have yourself a great day.